Well, now let's talk about golf. To the uninitiated, it might look like a peculiar way to ruin a perfectly good walk. You've got a stick, a little white ball that seems to have a mind of its own, and a whole lot of manicured grass with strategically placed sand traps and water hazards, just waiting to gobble up your dreams. But it's so much more than that, isn't it? Golf is a conversation you have with yourself for 4 hours. It's a test of character disguised as a sport. It demands precision, a bit of artistry, and a healthy dose of optimism, especially after you've sent your third ball into the drink. It's a game where the most important shot is always the next one. What makes this game truly unique is that you're not really playing against the other fellas in your group. Sure, there's a scorecard and someone has to buy the drinks at the end, but your real opponent is the course itself, and more often than not, the 6 inches between your own ears. The course architect has laid out a puzzle for you, a series of questions that you have to answer with your clubs. Can you shape the ball around that big oak tree? Do you have the nerve to carry that bunker? It's a constant battle of risk versus reward, a mental chess match played out over acres of beautifully frustrating landscape. And then there's the sheer unpredictability of it all. You can hit 2 shots with the exact same club, with what feels like the exact same swing, and watch the ball end up in 2 completely different postcodes. One day you feel like you've finally cracked it, like you're a golfing god walking among mortals, and the next day you couldn't hit a barn door from the inside. It's this maddening inconsistency that keeps us all coming back for more. It's the hope that on the very next swing, you'll produce that one perfect soaring shot that feels effortless and makes all the suffering worthwhile. It's a pursuit of perfection that can never truly be achieved. The beauty of golf is also in its setting. You're not stuck in some noisy stadium or a stuffy arena. You're out in nature, surrounded by rolling hills, ancient trees, and the sound of birds who couldn't care less about your double bogey. It's a chance to escape from the chaos of modern life for a few hours. It's a social affair, a chance to walk and talk with friends, or a solitary journey of self-discovery. It's a game for all ages, from a wee lad or lass just starting out to a grandparent in their 90s, still hustling their mates for a fiver. It's a game for life and a life of a game, all rolled into one. This wonderful, infuriating game of ours has some properly old roots, stretching way back to 15th century Scotland. It wasn't the polished affair we see today, with fancy clubhouses and perfectly manicured greens. It was a rough and ready pastime played by shepherds over the natural, bumpy links land along the coast. They would use a stick or a club to whack a pebble or a leather-stuffed feathery ball towards a designated target, probably a rabbit hole or some other landmark. It was a simple way to pass the time and challenge their mates while keeping an eye on the sheep. It's a far cry from a corporate golf day, I can tell you that. Of course, the game became so popular that it started to cause a bit of a problem for the powers that be. In 1457, King James II of Scotland got his knickers in a twist because his soldiers were spending too much time playing golf and not enough time practicing their archery. Back then, archery was vital for national defense against those pesky English neighbors. So, the king issued a ban on golf, declaring it an unprofitable sport. Can you imagine trying to ban golf? That's like trying to ban rain in Ireland. It's a futile exercise and you'll only make people miserable. The ban didn't stick, of course, and people kept on playing. Thankfully, royalty eventually saw the light. By the early 16th century, the Scottish monarchs themselves had caught the golfing bug. King James IV, the very grandson of the man who banned it, was recorded as buying his own set of clubs in 1502, officially lifting the ban and making golf a respectable, even noble, pursuit. Mary, Queen of Scots, was also known to be a keen golfer, and she might have been the first to use the term caddy, which is thought to come from the French military cadets who would have carried her clubs. So, from a band distraction to a royal obsession, golf's journey was well and truly underway. This early version of the game was a wild thing. The courses were just natural landscapes, and the equipment was primitive. The feathery ball was a work of art in itself, a leather pouch tightly stuffed with boiled goose feathers. When it got wet, it became a useless, heavy lump, and it was expensive to make, meaning the game was mostly for the well-to-do. The clubs were hand-carved from wood, often with names like Long Noses and Baffing Spoons. It was a completely different feel, a different sound, a whole different world from the titanium drivers and urethane balls we have today, but the spirit of the game was the same. As the game grew, it needed proper homes and a set of rules to stop the arguments. This is where places like St Andrews come into the picture. Golf had been played on the links at St Andrews for centuries, but it was in the mid-18th century that it really became the spiritual home of the game. The course wasn't designed by some fancy architect. It evolved naturally. Golfers just figured out the best route to play across the land, and the greens were simply areas where the grass was kept short by grazing sheep. It was raw, it was natural, and it was brilliant. The old course at St Andrews became the benchmark, the template for golf course design for generations. Before 1744, the rules of golf were a bit like a local dialect. They varied from town to town. You can imagine the chaos when players from different clubs got together. So a group called the Honourable Company of Edinburgh Golfers decided it was time for some order. They wrote down the first known rules of golf for their tournament at Leith Links. There were only 13 of them, simple and to the point. Things like you must tee your ball within a club's length of the hole, and a rule about what to do if your ball ended up in watery filth. It was a crucial first step in standardizing the game we love. 10 years later, in 1754, the golfers at St Andrews formed their own society, which would eventually become the Royal and Ancient Golf Club of St Andrews, or the R&A. They adopted the Edinburgh golfers' rules with a few minor tweaks. Because of the growing prestige of St Andrews, their version of the rules became the standard that other clubs started to follow. The R&A became the governing body for golf everywhere in the world, except for the United States and Mexico. They were the guardians of the game's traditions, the keepers of the flame, ensuring that golf maintained its integrity and sportsmanship as it grew. One of the most important decisions made at St Andrews was to reduce the course from 22 holes to 18 holes in 1764. They decided that some of the holes were too short, so they combined them. This created the 18-hole round that is now the standard for a game of golf all over the world. It wasn't some grand master plan. It was just a practical decision made by a group of golfers trying to improve their course. But that decision shaped the very structure of the sport. Every time you play a round of 18 holes, you are following a tradition that started on that wind-swept piece of Scottish coastline more than 250 years ago. For a long time, golf was mostly a Scottish and English affair. But like many great things, it eventually packed its bags and made the journey across the Atlantic to America. There are records of golf being played in the States as early as the 18th century, but it didn't really take hold. It was seen as a strange foreign game. The real spark came much later, in the late 1880s, thanks to a Scotsman named John Reed. He and a few of his mates, who they called the Apple Tree Gang, set up a makeshift 3-hole course in a pasture in Yonkers, New York, in 1888. That was the start of the St Andrews Golf Club, one of the first permanent golf clubs in America. From that small pasture in Yonkers, the game started to spread like wildfire. The late 19th and early 20th centuries were the boom time for American golf. The country's growing wealth meant people had more leisure time and money. New clubs started popping up all over the place, especially on the East Coast. In 1894, with the game growing fast and different clubs using different rules, it was time to get organized. Representatives from 5 of the leading clubs met in New York City and formed the United States Golf Association, the USGA. Their job was to create a single set of rules and to run national championships. The first of these championships, the US Open and the US Amateur, were held in 1895 at Newport Country Club. In the early days, these tournaments were dominated by Scottish and English professionals who had come over to America to work as club pros and course designers. A young man named Francis Ouimet changed all that in 1913. He was a 20-year-old amateur, a former caddy, who stunned the world by beating 2 of Britain's finest professionals, Harry Vardon and Ted Ray, in a playoff to win the US Open. Ouimet's victory was front-page news. He was the underdog, the local boy who beat the giants. His win put golf on the map in America and inspired a whole new generation to take up the game. The growth of the railroads also played a massive part in golf's American expansion. As the railway lines spread across the country, so did golf courses. Developers built resorts in places like Florida and California, with grand hotels and stunning golf courses to attract wealthy tourists from the cold northern cities. The game was no longer just an East Coast phenomenon. It was becoming a truly national sport. It was the beginning of the journey that would eventually see America become the most powerful nation in the world of golf, producing legendary players and hosting some of the biggest tournaments on the planet. In professional golf, there are tournaments, and then there are the majors. These are the 4 events that every professional dreams of winning. They are the ones that define a player's career and write their name into the history books. The 4 majors are the Masters, the US Open, the Open Championship, sometimes called the British Open, and the PGA Championship. Winning just one of them is a monumental achievement. Winning multiple majors puts you in the company of the gods of the game. They are the ultimate test of skill, nerve, and endurance, held on some of the most challenging courses in the world under immense pressure. The Open Championship is the oldest of them all, first played in 1860 at Prestwick in Scotland. It's the original championship, a true test of links golf, where players have to battle the elements, the wind, the rain, the firm, bouncy turf, and the dastardly pot bunkers. The US Open, run by the USGA, is famous for being the toughest test in golf. The courses are set up to be brutal, with narrow fairways, thick rough, and lightning-fast greens. It's a battle of survival. The PGA Championship is the pros' championship, run by the PGA of America, and it always brings together one of the strongest fields in golf. But there's one major that holds a special, almost mystical place in the hearts of players and fans, the Masters. It's the only major played at the same course every year, the magnificent Augusta National Golf Club in Georgia. The club was the brainchild of the great amateur golfer Bobby Jones and a financier named Clifford Roberts. They wanted to create a golfer's paradise, and by heavens, they succeeded. From the moment you drive down Magnolia Lane, you know you are somewhere special. The course is a work of art, with its blooming azaleas, towering pines, and perfectly manicured fairways. It's a cathedral of golf. What makes the Masters so unique are its traditions. The tournament is an invitation-only event. The winner doesn't receive a trophy in the traditional sense. He receives a green jacket, which he can take home for 1 year before returning it to the club to be stored there permanently. There's the Champions Dinner on the Tuesday of tournament week, where the defending champion chooses the menu for all the past winners. There's the ceremonial opening tee shot hit by legendary older players. It's a tournament steeped in history and reverence, a celebration of the game that feels different from any other week in golf. It signals the start of spring and the real start of the golfing season for millions around the world. A sport is nothing without its heroes, and golf has been blessed with some absolute giants. These are the players who didn't just win tournaments. They changed the game, captured the public's imagination, and brought millions of new fans to the sport. In the early to mid-20th century, you had players like Bobby Jones, the eternal amateur who won the Grand Slam in 1930 and then retired at the age of 28. Then came the likes of Ben Hogan, a man of immense focus and a swing so pure it was like poetry in motion, and Sam Snead, with his straw hat and a swing as smooth as Tennessee whiskey. They set the stage for the television era. Then a man named Arnold Palmer came along. He wasn't just a golfer, he was a superstar. With his dashing looks, his gopher-broke style of play, and his connection with the fans, his Arnie's Army, he was the perfect hero for the television age. He made golf cool. He would hitch up his trousers, take a drag from his cigarette, and then smash the ball a country mile. He played with his heart on his sleeve, and people loved him for it. His rivalry with the great Jack Nicklaus became the stuff of legend, a fascinating contrast in styles and personalities that captivated the sporting world for years. And what can you say about Jack Nicklaus, the Golden Bear? The man is, quite simply, the greatest champion the game has ever known. His record of 18 major championships is the benchmark, the Mount Everest that all other golfers aspire to climb. Jack wasn't flashy like Arnold, but he was a brilliant strategist, a powerful player with an iron will to win. His victory at the 1986 Masters at the age of 46 is one of the most iconic moments in all of sports. He was a force of nature, dominating the game for more than 2 decades, and setting a standard of excellence that is still revered today. After the big three of Palmer, Nicklaus, and South Africa's Gary Player, other legends emerged like Tom Watson, who had that famous duel in the sun with Jack at Turnberry, and the great Spaniard, Seve Ballesteros, a charismatic genius who could hit shots from places you wouldn't even walk. And then, in 1997, a young man named Tiger Woods arrived and changed everything. He brought a new level of athleticism, power, and mental toughness to the game. He didn't just win, he dominated. He made golf a global phenomenon, inspiring a new, diverse generation of players and taking the sport to a level of popularity it had never seen before. The game the Shepherds played on the Scottish coast is a world away from the high-tech sport we see today. The biggest changes have come in the equipment, the tools of the trade. The old wooden-shafted clubs and feather-stuffed balls have been replaced by space-age technology. The persimmon wood drivers of yesteryear have given way to giant 460cc titanium heads, which are so forgiving you can almost miss the ball completely and still send it 250 yards down the middle. Irons are now made with perimeter weighting and cavity backs designed to help even the most average golfer get the ball in the air. It's all about making this difficult game just a little bit easier. The golf ball has had its own incredible journey. After the feathery came the gutta percha ball, made from the sap of a Malaysian tree. It was cheaper and more durable, which helped the game grow. Then came the wound rubber core ball, and now we have multi-layered solid core balls with complex dimple patterns designed by aerodynamic engineers. These modern balls fly further and straighter than ever before. This technological arms race has had a massive impact on the game. Players are hitting the ball incredible distances, forcing classic old courses to be lengthened just to keep up. It's a constant debate. Is technology helping the game or harming it? Technology isn't just in the clubs and balls, it's everywhere. Players now use launch monitors that can analyze every single detail of their swing and ball flight. club head speed, launch angle, spin rate, you name it. It's taken the guesswork out of practice. Professional golfers have teams of experts, swing coaches, fitness trainers, sports psychologists, and nutritionists. It's a far cry from the days when a pro's pre-round preparation might have been a bacon sandwich and a few practice putts. This scientific approach has created a new breed of golfer, an athlete who is stronger, fitter, and more powerful than ever before. The game has also burst out of its traditional heartlands of Scotland, England, and America. It is now a truly global sport. The success of players like Gary Player from South Africa, Seve Ballesteros from Spain, Greg Norman from Australia, and Isao Aoki from Japan helped to ignite interest in their home countries. Today, the professional tours are filled with stars from all over the world, from South Korea, from Sweden, from Colombia, from Thailand. After a 112-year absence, golf returned to the Olympic Games in 2016, a massive step that has helped to boost its popularity and secure government funding for the sport in countries where it was once a minority interest. The old game has found a new worldwide audience, and its future looks brighter than ever.